we've seen on recent nights, it's going to be tough to get those temperatures down. Look at the dew point temperatures into the 70s again. So again, very muggy and oppressive. It feels like temperatures. They can feel close to 90 degrees in Nyack, 80 in White Plains, 82 in Poughkeepsie, and 75 in Middletown. We have showers and scattered thunderstorms. A few of them are locally strong, but the activity is not as widespread as last night, nor as potent. That threat will be ending. A tad less humid for Thursday. It's the only bit of relief I can offer to you. Same for Fridays, and then Saturday, here comes the mugginess and showers and storm threat again. We'll have your complete FiOS 1 forecast a bit later in the news. Thank you.
Gave everybody a little green screen there, Joe. We're on already.
Oh, we're on already?
Yeah, I gave him a little green screen stuff.
Well, I did that with you last week.
That's right, so it was bound to work out even.
It's a good thing that we didn't
Lock Courtney is on, by the way.
It's a good thing we didn't have a major malfunction.
Yes, thankfully. Well, let's say hi. Joe Cioffi, FiOS 1 News, Long Island, and FiOS 1 News, New Jersey.
And coming into the picture now, here I am, Joe Rayo, FiOS 1 News, Lower Hudson Valley.
And somewhere in here, if I can find it, where is it? Oh, it's buried down there. Yay! It's...
Do we have somebody online here? Or,
it's
our logo?
The Joe and Joe Show.
Oh, the Joe and Joe Show.
Now, we have nobody online
tonight. I was hearing Courtney in my ear.
Actually, that does bring up a point, though, and I made this on my YouTube video earlier.
I'm just going to turn off all my microphones here.
Okay, go ahead.
So you continue for a moment.
Well, you know, one of the things, and I was wondering about this, and it seems to happen more this time of year when you get deep into the summer, as opposed to, say, earlier in the summer. But last night's thunderstorms, obviously they were severe, or some of them certainly were, and the risk of severe weather was there. I'm just wondering what the exact criteria is with regards to issuing a severe thunderstorm watch, which we didn't have last night. And a few people were wondering why on some of the cells that there was no warning. Some had warnings, some did not. You had flash flood warnings that were issued. You know, one of the things that I thought up, and I'm not saying this at all from the standpoint of trying to sound critical, because you and I both, you know, both of us know how hard it is when you've got severe weather breaking and multiple warnings going up in different counties.
Right.
How difficult it becomes to stay ahead of it. And I think the next time we have Bill Goodman on, I want to ask him about that. How, you know, basically, what's the criteria? I really would like to know.
I think more often than not, when I see the discussions of potential severe weather by the Storm Prediction Center, they always but they always talk about potential hail, strong gusty winds or damaging winds. They don't really talk in the severe case in terms of lightning, which we had a heck of a lot of yesterday and last night. And actually 3 people, I believe, were struck or had problems in Queens now from lightning. But you don't really see them talk about lightning in that sense. They talk about large hail, they talk about potential damaging winds, and of course downpours. We had some very heavy downpours yesterday too. So I'm not saying it's tunnel vision. Maybe when they put out their outlook, they're thinking more in terms of hail and damaging winds, and they're not really thinking that much about in terms of rain or possible cloud-to-ground lightning.
Richard Melikar just asked real fast, does we're talking about the teleprompter behind us ever get used? It never moves. No, we never. Joe and I never use teleprompter. Everything comes off the top of our heads. Sometimes right. Sometimes more successfully than others. Okay, so you know the other thing is, and this is just to show you the variability. You know, you look at the parameters today, and then you look at the severe weather parameters yesterday, and they weren't. Look, it's never identical, obviously, but certainly the parameters were there for severe weather again today, and yet there's never a guarantee that it's going to play out. The thunderstorms don't necessarily happen in the same place,
right?
Nor do they happen at the same time, and that's kind of how it's played out so far today. Let's you know, let me bring up the radar.
Well, we were thinking, and we were telling everybody today that in the case of this particular potential outbreak, we were thinking that it would happen more into the late evening hours. I would have thought by now that we would be seeing a heck of a lot more in terms of possible strong to severe activity, and it's really very widely scattered and not as widespread as it was yesterday. And just backtracking to what we were talking about a minute or two ago, Joe, I mean, we know, for example, how to look at the cross-section of the atmosphere, make a determination as to whether or not there might be large hail in certain situations.
Right.
And, perceptible water values giving you the idea of whether or not there's going to be a lot of rainfall in any one particular spot. But how do you make a determination as to whether or not a thunderstorm is going to be particularly proactive in terms of lightning? Because we've seen some thunderstorms that have caused a lot of damage, but really haven't produced very much in the way of lightning and thunder.
And some put on these huge hot lightning shows. You get 5 drops of rain, and that's it.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, it's hard to know.
And out west, they refer to those on the occasion when I've been like in Utah and Montana or whatever like that. They actually have a different lingo for that. They call them electrical storms out there. I've never heard, or rarely I've ever heard us refer to a thunderstorm here
as an electrical storm.
As an electrical storm.
Well, and those storms out west, depending on where they are, certainly can trigger off wildfires.
Right.
It's part of the natural regeneration of the forests out west. Of course, we have a wildfire out of control in Southern California, and probably no rain in the forecast there for the next 2 weeks.
We don't have wildfires. We have brush fires.
We have brush fires. So. Here's the radar. This is, I believe, I'm not sure if that's the Mount Holly radar or if that's Dover. I did have the Dover radar up a little earlier. All right, a lot of this stuff is...
Yeah, a lot of
stuff. Oh, no, actually, this is Mount Holly. Okay, so you can see tonight, this is as of 9:30, there are some strong thunderstorms going on through parts of the Hudson Valley, further north as you head up 87. And there's some thunderstorm activity down in south central Pennsylvania, getting ready to approach Harrisburg. There's been a few flare-ups. There were some cells earlier, some strong cells isolated here and there, but it looks fairly quiet. So I'm thinking tonight we're not going to get too much.
Well, the trend would be, if you believe some of the computer models, and let me tell you that a couple of the models that we usually would rely on to give us a short-term outlook, such as the HRRR model or the 3-kilometer NAM model, or even the RAP model, RAP model.
They've been awful.
They have been absolutely awful the last couple of days in trying to pinpoint where, when, and how these storms are going to flare up. But the general thought was, and still is that once we get past the witching hour of midnight, a lot of these storms that are active now are just going to fizzle on out, and that should lead us into a couple of dry days, albeit warm to hot days.
Relatively dry.
Relatively dry. Well, dry in the sense we won't have any thunderstorms to threaten tomorrow or Friday, but not so in terms of humidity. The humidity, the dew point temperatures will come down a little bit, but certainly.
I have the dew point maps up here. By the way, maps courtesy of tropicaltidbits.com. Check them out. If you are a weather enthusiast, you probably already have. If you haven't, you should. So the dew points, at least on the GFS, come down into by tomorrow night, they actually drop them into the low 60s. Joe, tomorrow, Friday afternoon, it looks like there's some kind of front that drops down from upstate New York, because our dew points actually climb a bit Friday afternoon to the upper 60s to near 70. And it looks like there's a frontal boundary that sets up just north of New York City and just north of northern New Jersey, where there might even be a band of showers there. Up for you,
right?
While and then you go up to upstate New York, you got dew points in the 50s and 40s that come down. Then that, of course, gradually gives way. I think that sets us up for the threat for downpours. We're gonna have a bit of an onshore flow on Saturday with low pressure to the south and this kind of weak high enveloped around us. We're going back into what should be a pretty, a fairly wet pattern. It won't rain all the time, correct?
Right. And it's kind of like in a way, it's kind of like an overrunning pattern for us here for southern New England, New York, Pennsylvania, because there's going to be a high that's going to try to inflate somewhat over northern New England over the weekend. And meantime, we've got all of this muggy, sticky air that's been held at bay that's going to start working its way back north over the weekend, trying to climb over that dome of high pressure. The overrunning is only going to reach so far, maybe as far as the Hudson Valley and perhaps up into, let's say, northern Connecticut or western Massachusetts. But I think that's where it's going to pretty well stop for a while, at least through the weekend.
Right.
So if you know anybody who happens to be planning to be, let's say, up in northern New England or Maine, hopefully the weather will not be particularly bad.
I was running the dew points all next week, which looked like upper 60s to some days into the 70s, and the dew points really get out of control in the Midwest. You see mid to upper 70s. But next week at this time, if this continues to verify, which models have been kind of showing this, we may be looking at this, which is a nice push of dry air for next weekend. Look at these dew points, Joe, down in the 40s for Saturday. Well, not so much for Saturday. I mean, they're falling on Saturday. They're still in the 70s on Saturday till the front gets by. And then it's in the 40s with dew points a week from Sunday and Monday and even into Tuesday. We're still holding on to dew points in the 50s. That is, let's hope that happens.
I would like to offer that hope, except that if I recall correctly, about 10 or 12 days ago from where we are right now, the models were somewhat suggesting the same scenario, and then as we got closer, all of a sudden, as if everything fell into a hole, so to speak, over the Ohio Valley, all of a sudden they created this cutoff low,
right? The
third cutoff in the last 3 weeks. We seem to be...
Well, you have to be, and I agree with you, you have to be suspicious of these things because of that fact,
right?
That we keep wanting to keep the trough keeps wanting to drop into the eastern part of the United States.
And that also tells you, and I've been saying this for a very long time, the validity of some areas, some places that offer you a 10 or even a 15-day forecast. Really, I mean, once you get past 4 or 5 days, it's pretty much a crapshoot because these models, they'll do their best to try to tell you what will happen, or at least what the trends will be beyond 5 days. But as I just explained, a week ago, if you had asked me what this weekend was looking like, I'd say, well, cross your fingers, we may have a nice significant drop in the dew point temperatures. A trough is going to be coming on through to the north, and but it didn't turn out that way because over the weekend into early this week, we saw yet another cutoff low over the Ohio Valley, and that pretty much will preclude any significant relief locally.
I just ran through the GFS through the weekend and into next week, and while it doesn't rain all the time, certainly, what you described with kind of a high sort of enveloping around from New England back to the lakes and low pressure to the south, so we get what looks like will be maybe occasional waves of rain or downpours or however you want to characterize it, and that continues at least into Wednesday. But again, as you described with respect to the upper air, there's your next trough, this cutoff low in the Ohio Valley. But I just want to show everybody how it gets there. We get this little shot of relief here for Thursday into Friday, and then there's your trough. The bottom part of the trough that's in the in southeastern Canada stretches in through the St. Lawrence Valley, and then cuts off. The western end of it cuts off and just drops in. And until something can come along in the north, and there is something there next Tuesday up near Lake Winnipeg in Canada to open it up and kick it out to the east, we're going to have to deal with this, southerly flow and tropical moisture and all the rest of it, and that's why we've got the chance for downpours in the forecast. And after that gets kicked out, weather conditions are going to improve.
And somebody mentioned to me yesterday. Yesterday was like the 17th 90-degree day at Central Park, and they said, "Wow, is that some kind of a record?"
No.
17 day, and I said, "Most definitely not." I could remember more than a few summers.
It's not
one that comes to mind immediately for just personal reasons or whatever like that. 1993. My daughter, in fact, was born in 1993, and that year, by the middle part of August, we had already attained 30 90-degree days, and a few more to add on after that. So we have had certainly much hotter summers, but I think the thing that really is everybody's taking note of is the humidity.
The humidity's been very tough since mid-July.
Everything is growing where I am, and probably where you are too, or like that. The vines, the weeds.
Oh yeah. I haven't even been running my sprinklers, and I haven't had that much rain.
Right.
We had the rain from the thunderstorms last night really has been it for a while. It's been so humid that the grass has just been feeding on that and doing quite well, thank you. And my water bill has been is going to get a little bit of relief as well.
Now I'm gonna have to mow my lawn on Friday, and normally I don't. When I have a tractor mower, I normally don't go any lower than 4 on the. I don't bring the deck down any lower than 4. But the way things have been going lately, I'm tempted to put it at 3.5 or 3, just to give it a shave, so to speak. Because
might as well.
no sooner do I cut it, the next day or a couple of days later, it looks like it's already shaggy because of all of the moisture, and everything's just growing like crazy. The C-Mac, is that how you pronounce it? The C.
I don't know.
It's just like a weed or whatever like that. The vines, everything is going out of control because of all that humidity.
Let's talk about Hector. Last night we were waiting for it to make its final jog to the turn to the west, which it did do. It's south of 17 degrees north. It's already passing the southernmost tip of Hawaii by about 150 miles. The impacts there have been minimal in terms of just some high clouds, actually.
Right.
And that's been it. And it'll pass probably about 250 miles south of Honolulu tomorrow, late tonight tomorrow. And then on its way to the international date line from here and beyond.
That's amazing. They really did dodge a bullet. Now, what is it now? A category?
It's 100. It's back to a 3, 115 miles an hour.
Right.
Here is. Let me bring up Miami's map.
It's white out.
There you go. Yeah. Here's Miami's map. The Hurricane Center. Actually, I'm sorry. This is the CPAC. So this is the Central Pacific Hurricane Center. The hurricane, their track is they kind of bend it west-northwest as it approaches 175 degrees west by Saturday morning. I noticed that a couple, the European and the GFS, take it across the Pacific and actually recurve it east of Japan. So this thing's going to be around for a while. In terms of distance, to have one start in the East Pacific and wind up all the way in the West Pacific and eventually recurve up and out, that doesn't happen very often.
No, it does not.
It really doesn't. It's kind of cool to see. By the way, I did find this website. If it behaves itself, it'll be good. This is you can find this from the Hurricane Center. It's Nestis www. Well, you don't need a www. Nestis NESDIS.NOAA.gov, and this is actually, Joe. It's an interactive Go 16, and we can move it all over the place, which is great, so that we can take a look at stuff that there might not be a specific sector yet for. And in fact, this is Tropical Storm Debbie, which was a subtropical storm yesterday. It's a tropical storm. It acquired full tropical characteristics. By this time tomorrow, it's way up in the North Atlantic, and it'll be gone. This is the third system this year to have where it's been subtropical at some point in its lifespan.
Right.
That's pretty unusual. 5 is the highest on record, and that was back in 1969. Beryl, Debbie, and Alberto all subtropical. Either Alberto was subtropical all the way through, but the other two subtropical at some stage in their life cycle. So I think that really tells you what kind of hurricane season we're going to have. I think it's going to be homegrown stuff.
It's you talk about these storms, basically at the subtropical level before going tropical or whatever. It's kind of like one of those outboard motors. It's like, at least on the Atlantic Basin, the tropics, it's kind of like trying to pull on the cord a couple of times, get it started before it finally starts to rev up. And of course, we have seen in other years tropical waves almost instantaneously seemingly going to a depression, bam, going right to tropical storm or hurricane. But this year, that process is going to be quite a bit slower because of probably cooler waters and also all of that dust that's coming off of the Sahara. And what can I say? Talking
about the growth, he says the thunderstorms are great for plants too because all the lightning is releasing the atmospheric nitrogen and making it water soluble and available for root take up.
Right.
Isn't that cool?
This is something I didn't know. I don't have exactly a green thumb. I'm just upset about the fact that because of all this humidity, and now of course you throw in the thunderstorm, the occasional thunderstorm, and everything, that everything is just growing like crazy.
Daniel Kirby, who sits, he's Johnny Quest on my YouTube channel, and he's in Western Virginia, near the Blue Ridge Mountains. Another couple of inches of rain there. They just keep piling it on. And this pattern that we're going into for the weekend is not good news for that area.
Right.
The Lynchburg, Virginia dam came very close to cracking, and it's filled to capacity. So the last thing they need is another round of flooding rains.
Heavy-duty flooding rains.
So this is not good. I did notice, Joe, a lot of people did point out that last night's lightning displays were just beyond exceptional. Maybe it's because of the fact that, at least for Long Island, there's been such a total lack of thunderstorms. But it's more than that. Judging from the pictures I saw, the lightning was insane.
Right, and this is, again, I would ask the question, where our conversation began, we were talking about the criteria for determining when and where to put up a severe thunderstorm watch. And again, it seems like wind and hail are the two primary reasons, but lightning in its own right. And what parameters do you use? Like we were just talking tonight, we had a thunderstorm that passed over my house in southwestern Putnam County. It then got to southeastern Putnam County, and as soon as it crossed over into Connecticut, all of a sudden we began to see on our radar all kinds of cloud-to-ground lightning strokes, something that was not happening just a half an hour previous. It's just been incredible how we've had these lightning displays, especially last night. It was the pinnacle last night, so to speak.
Just trying to get through some of the, I did see somebody mention about being, Scott Briller, I think, was you mentioned about going down to Wildwood this weekend. There's going to be downpours to deal with. You might be a little bit more in the warm sector than places up to your north, but the risk is going to be there. I don't know. I don't think it's a total washout, but there are going to be downpours running around. Rocco Fridella, I haven't given the MJO, the Madden-Julian oscillation, which is a lot of folks play around with that in the wintertime. You see it only occasionally mentioned in the summertime, depending on what phase that rather than go into take a while to explain the whole thing, because even I haven't quite grasped it yet after all these years. But the oscillation of tropical weather out in the West Pacific and beyond, and its impact on the weather here in our hemisphere. There's a phase that would favor hurricane and tropical storm development. Rocco, I haven't really been paying much attention to it, to tell you the truth.
And Rich,
58-mile-an-hour winds and 1-inch hail.
Yeah.
I guess that would be the severe criteria.
Right. Well, the 1-inch hail, we did not have hail forecast, and I don't think we saw any hail yesterday, because the temperatures both down here below and even aloft were a little bit on the warm side. We certainly had some gusty, strong winds. I saw reports of trees coming down. But again, do they take into account also the potential of cloud-to-ground lightning, which in itself, cloud-to-ground lightning is probably the biggest killer of them all in terms of severe weather.
Tuxedo Park for David Schwartz.
What does
he wants to know about the Tuxedo Park?
This weekend, I would have to say both days, Saturday and Sunday, more clouds than sun, noticeable increase in humidity as opposed to what we're going to see tomorrow and on Friday. And unfortunately, it looks like we're going to see, I'm not sure if it's going to be so much convective shower activity this weekend, because there is going to be a front just to our south, Joe. There may be more of an overrunning type pattern, so we may end up getting like spotty rain or occasional drizzle as opposed to hard downpours and convective activity or rumbles of thunder. But it does not look like a very good outdoor weekend coming up.
All right, let's wrap it up here, Joe. Top of the hour for me, Fios 1 News, New Jersey. Fios 1 News, Long Island.
Is it only Wednesday? Tomorrow's
Thursday. I was, at one point today, I got so disoriented, I couldn't remember what day of the week it was, and I kept hoping it was Thursday. But then I remembered that I did the 5 o'clock show yesterday, and this is pizza week.
Right.
So
that I
means
do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
And I do Tuesday and Thursday.
You do, you'll be doing the 5 o'clock show tomorrow, and that's kind of like a rough thing. Then you're pretty well done.
Then I'm done for the week.
Yeah. So and then we'll celebrate with some pizza on Friday.
On Friday. All right. So you got Fios
1 News,
Lower Hudson Valley.
Yes.
Brian Fitzgerald and Jeff Banson will be on in the morning to get you going on your Thursday. And
Addison Green and Brittany Bora. And let me point out for those of you who have Fios on all three zones, Long Island, New Jersey, and Lower Hudson Valley, Addison Green did a fantastic package talking about lightning and how deadly it can be and what causes it and whatever. And it's running on our news programs tonight. So if you have a chance to take a look at it, it's a pretty darn good and informative piece.
Okay, two things here. Blair Boyer wanting any hurricanes near the Dominican Republic next weekend. You can look at nhc.noaa.gov. The answer to that question is no. I doubt very seriously that there's going to be anything in the tropics over the next 5 to 7 days, the way it looks. And Richard Melikar makes a good suggestion here. Ham radio operators who follow, who might be hearing us, watching us tonight or wherever, if they want to get involved in Skywarn, they could really use more participation and assistance. And I think you can get more information on that on the Weather Service. The Weather Service webpage, weather.gov.
Right.
So you might want to check that out. So good idea, Mr. Melikar. All right, everybody, have a great evening. Joe and I will see you tomorrow.
Have a good one.